Hey, good morning. It's 8:28 a.m. It's Saturday morning. It's December 27th. I'm getting my day started. I wanted to come on here really quick and make this video, just kind of share my thoughts. I was thinking last night about how, you know, this Joseph Mengele connection with the church connection, the mind control programs, and thinking about some of the things that excuse me, my camera's a little off. Some of the things I dealt with, throughout the years and encounters that I had, and it seemed as though I know that Jim Culligan played a big role in this as well as Rashawn, but of course it was always behind the scenes. They were using people to stalk me, to relay messages that they themselves were too cowardice to deliver in front of my face. So they always used other people. Now, I would say that when people stalk, it's usually because they are very weak-minded. And this is one of the reasons why they use the tactics that they do. Now, when I think about how and the purpose of what these people were trying to do at all times, okay, I have to say that I identify this with demonic behavior. And the reason why I'm remembering some of the conversations that I had, like it seems as though these people resented me being in a decent mood. They would do everything they could to bring me down. And I remember, being in a positive mood, and then people would come up to me and they're like, "Stop it! You're not really happy. You're just faking it." And I kept thinking, "Why are you saying stuff like that?" Like I am. I'm in a good mood, all right. But see, they were always working behind the scenes to cause catastrophes. And they were deliberately trying to tear my mood down, my life down, everything that I wanted to do down. And this was their mission. They seemed obsessed about it. Why else would they even say something like that? Like, I wouldn't sit here and try to contest whether somebody's happy or not, nor would I even try to change their mood. But this was exactly their goal. And so this is the thing that I'm thinking, okay? Obviously, people like Jim Colligan was consumed with demonic entities. And the more I think about it, the more it makes sense to me. Why else would he be so subjugating? He's extremely subjugating. And I do know that he was not somebody that had the ability. This is one of the reasons why my father did not like Jim. From the very first time he met Jim, I remember Tanya was enthusiastic about him, and my dad met Jim, and I kept thinking, well, maybe my dad doesn't like Jim because he's white, right? That was my first thing that came to my mind. But my father didn't like Jim because Jim was a leech, a mooch, and somebody he recognized instantly as an abuser, right? And so I didn't think much of it, but I saw signs of it throughout the years. Like, I had mentioned when my sister Tanya was working, and or I would go visit them, and Jim would be he would dictate what she would do with her money. Mind you, she was the one who was making the most of it. So Jim was the kind of person, as well as Rashawn, and he probably coached Rashawn in how to get women, capture women, keep women, subdue women, and make them enslaved. Okay, because I don't, like I said, when I look at Melissa and I look at Rashawn, ain't no way in hell. There's just no way in hell that she would ever willingly just go to her. So one of the ways that people do this is through employment entrapping people through employment, such as what do you call it? Forced marriages. Now these marriages, of course, are not legal. Okay, like I had suspected this particular girl that came over to my house. I suspect that she was trying, maybe, I don't know for sure. I did not go into full meditation mode or whatever, but I understand that this sort of stuff does happen. And a lot of people do not know what constitutes a marriage. You have to be legally married. But at the same time, it would not put it past me if Rashawn or Jim Colligan sent these people over, as well as they're all united within this particular network. So it doesn't, but whatever I'm saying is, I am somebody who has every right to say I do not want to be a part of this cult. It doesn't make sense, okay? And so this is the reason why I'm addressing people. I called out to the mayor. Unfortunately, these people were convinced that these people were right, mainly because just because they came off this way, and they used religion to convince them, but they didn't describe exactly what made up their religion, and they made it up as they went along. Okay, so that was very destructive. But yes, when I think of how these people would go out of their way to try to either damage my mood, to keep me at a low vibration. So today I was asking myself, because I was getting ready in the bathroom, I was like, okay, what exactly, why did Jim and Rashawn, bother me as an adult? Like, and they didn't, these are two men who did not like each other. Like every time, nobody ever liked anybody within that family dynamic. Rashawn talked about Jim. He talked about Bruce. He thought Bruce was stupid. He hated Jeff. He hated all of these people. Rashawn never said anything positive about these people, okay? But yet they collaborate together. I'm not like that, okay? If I say I hate you, you know what I mean? I hate you all across the board, okay? That means we're not going to have lunch. I'm not going to pretend that I like you. You're not going to be in my face. If I say I don't like somebody, I don't like you, and I don't sit here and play the two-face game. Okay, but Rashawn and everybody in that family is like a master of it. Okay, so I do believe that Jim was somebody who resented me, right? Because I always made something into something positive. And that trait alone, okay, somebody who hates you for that trait, to me, seems like you're demonic. Okay, because if something seems strenuous or whatever, I have the right to sit here and try to uplift my mood, or try to make it better, or try to make it, to ease my pain. Jim Culligan was the kind of person who wanted to inflict pain. This is one of the reasons why I know how he talked to my sister. So Jim Culligan was a very warped person. The intuitive message I'm getting right now is humbled souls know they deserve to die and peaceful partings. So yeah, these people knew when I started presenting them with evidence of them using my son and abusing my son, okay, financially, abusing me financially, destroying my reputation on purpose, them not having the right to do what they did. And I even described the tactics that they use, using all important people. They brought down a lot of important people. Okay, a lot of important people, unfortunately, were tricked into following these people. And I'm not going to name any other important people, but they know who they are. Okay, so my point is that Rashawn, as well as Jim Culligan, and the rest of this I'm going to call it the cult. Okay, this cult group, they deserved it, and they knew that they deserved it at the end. Okay, so all I can say is that what must have consumed these people was demonic forces. Now, like I said, in the material world, when we talk about, like, if I was to have this discussion with somebody at work, or if I was going to discuss this issue, like maybe if let's just say, for example, I was being interviewed about, my victimization as a targeted individual, or somebody who's a victim of human trafficking, I would never mention, oh, these people are demonic or anything like that. And the reason why is because not everybody understands things that relate to the spiritual realm. Okay, but when I talk about the spiritual realm as to what things like envy, coveting, competition could corrupt people into, it's like, I believe that you're giving your way over to demonic forces. Okay, and yeah, I do believe in the demonic forces, meaning I know that they exist. That's what I'm saying. Okay, and I know that people have like, for example, this particular cult group, was attacking me because I didn't want to be a part of their cult. Okay, they use things like forced marriages to build their wealth. Okay, and like I said, I'm not married to Bruce. I resent them, and I also resent the fact that they never listened to me. Like, they should have accepted the fact that I was not interested in being with Bruce. They see what they want. They always insisted, okay, because to them it was a game. They always wanted to tear my mood down. They always wanted to tear my what do you call it? Like, if I was in a bubbly mood, I remember having this conversation with I would come into work and I was smiling, and then I had a coworker saying, "What are you smiling about?" She goes, "You're not going to be happy by the end of the day." And I'm like, why would you say something like that? Because these people find it enjoyable to destroy people's mental well-being. Okay, and like I said, that seems very close to demonic behavior. That's exactly what it is. Okay, so my feeling about Jim Colligan is very negative, and I also feel the same way about Rashawn, as well as that whole mentality. And the reason why they thought this way, that it was okay to be this way, is because these people have been mind controlled. They feel as though if they can destroy another person's mental well-being, then somehow that puts them on top. Okay, so that's an indication to me that something was wrong with these people. Okay, so anyway, so the other message that I was getting is that gave me confirmation. Okay, and I know that a lot of people in this community participated in this, But did they get the full story? Did they understand what was going on? Did they know that this was you don't force people into marriage. You don't force people into marriage. You don't do this sort of stuff. Anyway, I'm disturbed by the entire thing. I still wake up at night, or the middle of the night sometimes, and I'm disturbed by somebody who would take such drastic measures to try to force somebody into marriage so that they could be supported. Now, see, Jim Culligan, my father was right about Jim Culligan, okay? He knew that Jim Culligan was not somebody who was going to treat my sister well. As a matter of fact, my sister was very emotionally weak. He played on her emotional vulnerabilities, and he used and he abused her, okay? Plain and simple. I can't say much about the relationship between Jim and, not Jim, Jeff Hughes and Lisa, my other 533 so-called sibling. I can't say anything really about them other than I know that their relationship was a little rocky and there was some sort of frustration. I don't ever see any proof. I never saw any proof that Jeff used Lisa for financial issues. Okay, if anything, it looked like it was kind of the other way around. Like Lisa used, she said she got pregnant and so she ended up marrying him, and that's what she did. Okay, but when it comes to, I would say Jim Culligan played more of a role in this, as well as Bruce and Rashawn. Okay, and all of these men were abusers. All of these people, like for example, Bruce Collins, I find it shocking, right, that this guy would come back into my life after not having anything to do with him for since I would say since we broke up, okay, and that's been years and years and years ago. So I don't even look at him as like an ex-boyfriend or something. It's too long ago. It's too long ago. So I'm Jim Culligan was an opportunist. He was a very wicked man. He was a wicked man, and he took advantage of me. He had no right to have anything to do with me. Okay? So this is what I'm saying about people within the community. People need to know the difference between what is legal and what is not legal. Forced marriages is always going to be illegal. If you hear of somebody trying to do matchmaking and they're trying to use this in some form of forcing people to do things, or, these sort of arrangements are illegal and they cannot be justified. Okay? So what else do I want to say? Yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I mean, I wanted to release that because I was thinking about that, and I have to unwind through this trauma myself, okay? And like I said, I know that these sort of mind control programs have infiltrated different parts of society within the school system, and this is one of the reasons why when it comes to mental health for professionals, um, who discredit people who have dealt with things like ritual abuse. Yes, ritual abuse is real. I would say what Jim Culligan and Rashawn unleashed on me is ritual abuse. A lot of ritual abuse is more severe than what I've dealt with. Sometimes, if they're in close proximity, sometimes people force other people to have sex with multiple people. They might beat you. They might chain you down in people do all kinds of stuff, okay? But I would still consider this a form of satanic ritual abuse because it was systematically carried out. And as well as the mind control that was enacted and the trying to force somebody to do things against their will. Okay, like I said, satanic abuse goes from very mild to all the way to very warped and distorted things that involve things like ritualistically killing people, ritualistically sacrificing children, animals. Sometimes they've made children to show devotion to this cult. And I will say that Jim Culligan, as well as Rashawn, was demanding ultimate devotion to this cult. This is one of the reasons why these people were keeping this in a covert program, not saying anything. Well, at this moment, I'm telling you, you are now allowed to discuss this out in the open. And the reason why is because to keep it private is to keep it going. Do not ever keep these things secret, okay? Covert programs equal, unless of course it is a government official, okay, or somebody who can justify this sort of behavior, okay? No person off the street has the right to initiate this sort of stuff, okay? So at this point, if I talk about it, people have the right to discuss this, mention it, talk about it, recognize it. Like, for example, if I was to go into a job interview and explain the fact that I was dealing with I was a victim of human trafficking, it should be acknowledged. It should be completely recognized. Why? Because other people will try to gaslight you in these situations, and that's a form of gaslighting, denying it that it happens. Okay, so what that does is it's trying to, in a way, emotionally affect a person or reflect the abuse. What? How can I say this? Like, for example, it's it's justice to get closure. It's justice, and it's healing for, like, a lot of people who dealt with satanic ritual abuse or some form of human trafficking, to go into like a counselor's office, and they're talking about it. And see, when people sit here and try to deny it, it's a way of abusing the patient, because they're trying to leave the burden of, how can I say this, of not receiving closure. Okay, I deserve closure. Okay, so by protecting Rashawn or Jim Culligan's name is wrong. Okay, so this is what my son needs to understand. My son needs to understand that these people were evil. Okay, period. And so these people knew that they were evil, and yes, this is one of the reasons why they took themselves out. I am no longer keeping it secret. I will discuss it out in the open if I feel like it. Okay, the message I'm getting right now is that there is support in the community. And then also, many people in my soul tribe are grateful that I explained the origins of burden babies. Yes, and I know that Jim Culligan knew exactly who I was. This is probably one of the reasons, because low life people who are not capable of taking care of themselves, they sit here and study people, who they're going to come into. Okay, so he came into me and Tanya, to the Gordon's family's life on purpose. I believe that and the message I'm getting right now is that yes, it's 100% agreed that he did. Okay, so he planned this. And a lot of times relationships are built on, people studying you from afar before they actually come and approach you. Jim Culligan was a demon person, and this is the reason why my father never liked him. Okay, he never liked Jim. And like I said, it was more than him just being white. He understood that Jim was an abuser. That's exactly what he was. Okay. So now I understand that. And now I'm dealing with trauma. So when it comes to what I'm saying is, a lot of people who are dealing with human trafficking or victims of satanic ritual abuse or something else along those lines. Okay, a lot of times they get, like, for example, you make an appointment with a healthcare professional, right? Like, you want to go see a psychologist or something like that. So, and because it's a network, right? So Jim Culligan would probably call ahead or talk to this person and tell them to do this, this, and this. Right then and there, for that person to listen to a perpetrator, they are, number one, violating confidentiality laws. You're supposed to feel comfortable talking to your therapist or whoever it is, okay? And so he's going to tell these people, don't sit here and confirm this, this, and this. They are not actually being a service, and they're not really, exercising their profession as they're supposed to. As a matter of fact, they are acting as a conflict of interest to what they're supposed to do. So what people, and I do not need counseling. I don't. I know people are going to say, oh, you need counseling. No, I do not need counseling. And I'll tell you why. Because I can heal myself. Okay. I am always going to deal with this scar. I am never going to sit here and be 100% healed. Why? Because this was a lifelong tragic thing that Jim Culligan has been in my life for a very long time. Okay, this is long term. Okay, but I can function day to day, and that's what's important. I can function day to day. I'm still able to work. I'm still able to manage myself. Okay, but I'm saying for people who do need that. Okay, but one thing is for sure, I am not going to sit here and act like this never happened to me. I'm not going to sit here and let people gaslight me and act like it never happened. It happened. Okay, so keeping it quiet in the community needs not happen. Okay, you are free to talk about it because these people are no longer existing. Okay, and one thing, a person is never going to heal. Okay, if they are relying on a psychiatric system that is denying what happened to them. Okay, so a lot of these people, they do things that conflict with their profession. As a mental health care professional, you should not be taking any sort of directions from anyone else, and you need to listen to what that person is saying. You need to listen to them 100% and hear them out. Okay, to sit there and call them crazy for when they're describing something that's actually, yes, satanic ritual abuse happens a lot. And yes, the sad part is it happens in a lot of so-called Christian homes. Okay. A lot of them. So, that's something that people have to be aware of. And like I said, when it comes to these so-called therapists or whatever, they should not be disclosing any sort of things to third party people like Jim Culligan or whatever. That actually happened to me because I was going to try to get on disability when I was struggling to find a job, right? I was going to get on disability. So I tried to contact, I think it was Omni Healthcare, and I was on like a telephone call, and I could tell psychically, okay, because I can pick up on stuff. I knew that these people were being controlled. Okay. So it's important to not have that sort of communication. Okay. So let me see something really quick. Okay. So there might be some issues if you are a part of my soul tribe and if you are looking to help me find a job. Just this is right off the top of my head. It's coming out of my head, okay? If you are looking or trying to help me find a job, please check your references. Meaning, like, what I mean by that is communicate with these people to make sure that this job is legitimate, because these people, there's something going on that I don't necessarily trust right now. So just make sure, if you are trying to find a job for me in any way, make sure that it's legitimate. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Okay, so the message I'm getting right now is something about me defeating my enemies, and people are amazed at it. At this moment, it's important for you to, like I said, because something is very strange about this whole issue. You know what I mean? And it always seems abusive. Always. Okay. So I do not think it's a good idea for me to, go out and communicate with a lot of people, especially after this. Okay. But everybody in this community should know that this was something that they should not have gotten involved in. Okay. Um, what else? Okay. Something about the burden babies and okay, that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video, and I will be running my errands a little bit later. And I hope you guys have a good day. Take care. Bye-bye. My victimization of human trafficking will no longer continue, as I am releasing the names of the main perpetrators. Jim Culligan and Rashawn Gordon were using illegal tactics to initiate forced marriages through employment and were fully responsible for the covert operation against me, which caused me damage. Feel free to discuss this issue openly among yourselves, as well as in conversations with me if the opportunity arises. However, discussions with me are rare. It is no longer a secret and should be discussed openly for reasons of public safety, healing, and educational purposes. As for the mental health care professionals, please do not participate in stalking activities with your patients, as this is a conflict of interest and a betrayal, as well as a demonstration of your willingness to participate in human trafficking. What you discuss with your patients should be confidential. Satanic ritual abuse, otherwise known as SRA, is indeed real and played out through covert organized crime syndicates. It's more than okay to make this a public issue. Never keep this sort of activity a secret. Thank you for watching.